You all remember the last four things: death, judgment, heaven, and hell. All the last four things. They used to be a regular topic for preaching, but that practice seems to have gone away. Ask yourself, when was the last time you heard a funeral homily where the homilist spoke of death, judgment, heaven, hell? I'm sure all of you are familiar with the non-biblical Protestant doctrine of once saved, always saved. Am I correct? You heard of that? Yes? Just say a simple prayer, accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and that's it. You are saved. At that point, the only option for you is heaven. Certainly is a sweet deal, but it's not all the teaching of Jesus in the Gospels. Still, I'm sure like me, you have found that way of thinking has crept into the thinking of many Catholics as well. How often have you heard on hearing someone speaking on the death of a friend or a loved one or a family member that they say, they're in a better place now? Or they say, they're up there smiling down on us. All their suffering is over. I want to say to these people at those times you really can't, but I want to say to these people, how do you know that? Did God put you on that committee? If so, please tell me. I'll tell you, when I die, please don't say those things about me. Please don't assume anything. When I die, pray for me. Pray for me. Anyway, I tell you, it's no coincidence that the people who assume that when you die, boom, you go straight to heaven, they see no reason to prepare themselves for death. In fact, many of those people have even come to believe that hell doesn't even exist. Or if it does exist, it's empty. Or maybe God, in His mercy, simply annihilates the souls who deserve hell, so there are no longer any eternal consequences for unrepented, serious sin. If heaven is assured, it actually robs life of its significance. And if life is insignificant, then we can do with it as we please. Take it into our own hands through evil actions, such as in vitro fertilization, which so many people today naively think is a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's taking the power of God into your own hands. IVF, as is contraception, as is abortion. It's why we have something as evil as Amendment 4 on the ballot in the first place, which, if it passes, you mark my words, you rest assured, it's going to be followed by an amendment for euthanasia, assisted suicide, maybe even forced assisted suicide if someone is deemed to be a burden to society or too expensive to keep alive. If we can eliminate the young-born, why not the old-born? As I was placing the signs for vote no on Amendment 4 on our home, a woman was passing by, and she proudly shouted out to me that I am voting yes on Amendment 4. I was taken aback at first because honestly, I wasn't expecting to hear that. I thought, who would ever vote yes for such an evil? But here this woman said she was going to do that. And so I asked her if she approves of the taking of the life of an innocent child. She said she does. And in fact, she even added that she already has done so. There was no feelings, no indication of remorse or guilt in her life. As a matter of fact, there was a sense of pride in her voice about ending the life of an innocent child, or maybe even children. I said to her, may God have mercy on your soul. She said to me, thank you, but I've got to take care of myself. That's what she said. I've got to take care of myself. I guess she sees having a child as some sort of affliction or malady that needs to be taken care of. Death is not pretty, nor is it holy. Death as we know it, the corruption of the grave, was not God's original intention for us. The book of wisdom, which we heard from in our first reading, chapter 1 of the book of wisdom tells us God did not create death, nor does he delight in the death of the living. Yet death is nonetheless important because, thanks to the fall of Adam and Eve, it is now the door through which we pass into eternity. And so it needs to be taken seriously. Death is our enemy. St. Paul tells us in his first letter to the Corinthians, the last enemy to be destroyed is death. Death's importance is underscored in that Jesus Christ destroyed death. How? By dying. By dying, he trampled it underfoot, trampled death by death. In the letter to the Hebrews, it tells us that Jesus, by his death, might destroy the one who has power of death, and that is the devil, and free those who, through fear of death, have been subject to slavery all their life. If we too wish to defeat death, we too must die with Christ so that we can rise with him and united to him defeat death with him. That is why our real enemy, the devil, uses death as his greatest tool to enslave us. As the letter to the Hebrew tells us, not just by our fear of death, but by trivializing it in our eyes, leading us to think that we can manipulate human life and even destroy it by our actions while disregarding the consequences of those actions. Death is both inevitable and important. So we need to prepare ourselves for it. And we can do that only if we are mindful of death and meditate on it every day, as St. Benedict suggests that we do. The Church's Code of Canon Law, the very last canon, states that the salvation of souls which must always be the supreme law of the church, is to be kept before one's eyes. It's why St. Benedict teaches that we are to keep death ever before our eyes. It is why the church gives us days like today, All Souls Day, and indeed the entire month of November, to do three things. To pray for those who have died and are in need of our prayers, to prepare ourselves for our own death, and to make others aware of those last four things: death, judgment, heaven, and hell. Death, judgment, heaven, and hell are real, and we are obligated as Catholics to prepare ourselves for that, and to help prepare others for where they will be spending eternity, to make them know that the four things are real. Because once we understand that there is more to life than just the here and now, it makes us live our life differently from this moment forward. We start living in the light of eternity, and that determines how we do everything, every single action in our life. We must regard ourselves as strangers here on earth, because this is not our lasting home. And so, we begin to prepare ourselves today by praying for the dead, offering our prayers for those who have gone before us, especially those who are in need of our prayers, the souls in purgatory. St. Paul of the Cross, a priest and founder of the Passionist order, said, "If during life we have been kind to the suffering souls in purgatory, God will see that help not be denied us after our death."